Hey guys, happy Easter. It's Easter Sunday, and I trust you've all been able to enjoy some of these Easter eggs. Now, because I love eggs so much, I'm going to tell us a story all about Easter eggs. But my Easter eggs have something very special written on the back of them that will going to help me tell my story today. These eggs are called resurrection eggs, because today is all about the resurrection. So on my first egg is a picture of a donkey. Now, some of you, if you remember, I did a story not so long ago all about eggs that had pictures in them as well. But I want to recap all the way from Palm Sunday through to today, Easter Sunday. It says they bought the donkey and the colt. They placed their coats on them. Then Jesus sat on the coats. A very large crowd spread their coats on the road. Others cut branches from the trees and spread them on the road. Let's see what my second egg has. Some silver coins. If you remember and you're clever enough, you'll remember what part of the story this was from. One of the 12 went to the chief priests. His name was Judas. He asked, "What will you give me if I hand Jesus over to you?" So they counted out 30 silver coins for him. From then on, Judas watched for the right time to hand Jesus over to the Pharisees. This egg has a very special cup on it. It's known as the Passover cup. Some of you again might remember we spoke about this, and we even get to celebrate this sometimes in church. We call it communion. But when evening came, Jesus was at the table with his 12 disciples. Then he took the cup, he gave thanks, and he handed it to them. He said, "All of you drink from it. This is my blood of the new covenant. It is poured out to forgive the sins of many." I can imagine the disciples might have been a bit confused by that. What was Jesus on about? But it was soon to be revealed. On the back of my fourth egg, we have some praying hands. It says here, Jesus and his disciples went to a place called Gethsemane. Jesus said to them, "Sit here while I pray." He went a little farther, then he fell to the ground. He prayed that if possible, the hour might pass him by. "Abba," he said, which means Daddy, Father, everything is possible for you. Take this cup of suffering away from me, but let what you want be done, not what I want. Your will, but not mine. And then while they were there, soldiers arrested Jesus and took him before the bosses of the time. And there, a leather whip. Not a very nice time for Jesus, but it says here that, "Then what should I do with the one you call the King of the Jews?" Pilate asked them. "Crucify him," the crowd shouted. "Why? What wrong has he done?" asked Pilate. But they shouted even louder, "Crucify him!" Pilate wanted to satisfy the crowd, so he let Barabbas go free. He ordered that Jesus be whipped. Then he handed him over to be nailed to a cross. A crown of thorns. Some of you know the story well, and this was placed on Jesus' head. Then they twisted thorns together to make a crown. They placed it on his head. They put a stick in his right hand. Then they fell on their knees in front of him and made fun of him. "We honor you, King of the Jews," they said. The guards were rather mean to Jesus and liked to make fun of him. It wasn't very fair. But then came the time when the nails appeared, and so did the cross. Finally, Pilate handed Jesus over to them to be nailed to a cross. Jesus is nailed to a cross. So the soldiers took charge of Jesus. He had to carry his own cross. It was very heavy and not very easy to do. He went to a place called the Skull. In the Aramaic language, it was called Golgotha. They there nailed Jesus to the cross. My next egg has some dice for gambling. You might wonder what's that got to do with the story, but there's a verse in Matthew 27, verse 35 that says, when they had nailed Jesus to the cross, they divided up his clothes by casting lots. These soldiers were really not nice to Jesus. Even more, my next egg has a soldier's spear. Some of you know what happens with this part of the story. But when they came to Jesus, they saw that he was already dead. So they did not break his legs. Instead, one of the soldiers stuck a spear into Jesus' side. And it was a bit like a science experiment, but if Jesus was dead, the blood and the water would flow separately, and that was a way of them knowing that he was gone. Next up is some linen, some special linen used for wrapping Jesus' body. In Matthew 27, from verse 59 to 60, it says, Joseph took the body and wrapped it in a clean linen cloth. He placed it in his own tomb that he had cut out the rock. Even though the soldiers were mean, there were still some people that still loved Jesus. And my next egg has a picture of a stone. That's right, you know what the stone was used for. The Sabbath day was now over. It was dawn on the first day of the week. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to look at the tomb. There was a powerful earthquake. An angel of the Lord came down from heaven, and the angel went to the tomb with them and rolled back the stone and sat on it. And my last egg is that picture of an empty tomb. The angel said to the woman, Don't be afraid. I know that you are looking for Jesus who was crucified. He is not here. He is risen, just as he said he would. Come and see the place where he was lying. Go quickly and tell his disciples, He is risen from the dead. He is going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him. Now I have told you. They were afraid, but they were filled with joy. They ran to tell the other disciples. And just like the empty tomb, like I told you the other day, most of our eggs are empty when we crack them open. A great reminder today of that empty tomb. Jesus didn't stay dead. He came back to life like he promised. He died on the cross, but rose again 3 days later, victorious over death, conquering death. And because of that, when we believe in our hearts and trust in him and say sorry for all the bad things that we have done and even will do, Jesus forgives us. It's a day today where we can celebrate. Just like Mary, when she saw the empty tomb, she might have been very confused. But when she saw that angel and the angel told her that Jesus had risen, she was filled with joy. May you be filled with joy today. May we look forward to the life that's ahead of us, what the future holds. It might be a strange time at the minute, but there is hope, and the best is yet to come. Have a fantastic day. Enjoy doing the activities online. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. But God bless you all.